What's up, guys? I'm John.
My name is Chris.
And we are the Heck, and today we're going to be checking out another freaking Overlord lore video, and this one is about Sebas!
Yes.
And his strength. And last time was kind of more like a who is he and who created him, and kind of like a lot more of a broad stroke of him. This one's going to be hopefully a little bit more condensed and a little bit more like
stats and special moves and stuff.
The nerdy stuff that we're really into.
Yeah.
So in saying that, if y'all are new to our channel, smash that sub button. If you want to support our channel, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. And if you're feeling like you want to talk to us about something, I would like to ask y'all a quick question. Do you guys want to watch us do reactions to the Pleiades show? Because I'm really curious about watching that. And if y'all would like to watch it with us, we're either going to be doing it on YouTube and Patreon or just on Patreon. So let us know what y'all's thoughts are, and we'll get into that too. But either way, freaking boop. I'm hitting that play button. Motherfucking BAM!
How strong is Sebas?
That's what I ask myself every day of my life.
But I think the one that you want answered first is, what is Sebas? I mean, he looks like a human.
Yeah, he does.
But you and I both know that's not at all what he is. So let's answer that right now. Sebas is a dragonoid. As in, a member of the
that's
dragon
okay.
race in
It all
some
makes sense,
capacity.
dude.
It's
He's got the power of the dragon running through his blood.
Is a full-on dragon, but we'll get to that in a bit. Let's first look at the dragon race from where Overlord draws a lot of its inspiration.
Damn.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Wait,
Dragons are a fantasy race.
What show is it that we watched recently? Oh, Slime. Yeah, the dragons.
Yeah, the dragon newts.
Yeah. Damn, okay.
Right. Metallic dragons that have, well, metallic scales, so platinum, gold, silver,
that looked awesome.
bronze, and they're typically heavily good aligned. Whereas chromatic dragons, deriving from the Greek word chroma, meaning color, were the opposite and strongly aligned with evil. Their scales had more ordinary colors of red, black, blue, or whatever, rather than the metallic sheen. And they typically defined what kind of breath
the sheen,
whether it be fire, ice, acid, light.
Oh god, an acid dragon.
Can you imagine? I'd rather have a fire. Maybe die quicker,
of old age.
Yeah.
Instead,
I don't know.
they grow perpetually.
Probably.
The older the dragon ages, the more powerful and larger they become. Physical strength and toughness increase along with their breath attack and how frequently that they can use it. They also gain a small selection of spells, including arguably their most important, the polymorph spell, allowing them to change their appearance. Many of them tend to disguise themselves as one of the humanoid races, and even start families. Now, in Overlord, dragons are pretty much identical to their Dungeons & Dragons counterparts, but there are a few exceptions. First, the patterns of metallic being good and chromatic being evil doesn't quite seem to hold in Yggdrasil, or the New World. Sure, there are dragons that are good and evil, but they seem to come in both variations of the colors. For instance, to the north of the kingdom lies the Argolent Council State, where a group of 5 dragons, including the Platinum Dragon Lord, peacefully rule over a nation of racially mixed demi-humans. Then there's the Catastrophe Dragon Lord, so dangerous that he's described as being a world-shattering calamity. Another difference is their magic system. They have access to a powerful brand of magic called ancient magic, or
Whoa,
is this
wild magic?
Right, but is this talking about in the game or in the New World?
I think the New World. I think the New World.
A type that's powered with soul energy rather than mana, meaning its usage usually requires the sacrifice of a living creature. Magic pre-existed the tier magic of Yggdrasil, and was the dominant magical art in the New World. Only those who had dragon blood somewhere in their lineage were capable of using wild magic, and the more pure blood of a dragon you were, the more powerful your wild magic. Thus, the eldest dragons, aka Dragon Lords, ruled the entire globe. But once the mana-based tier magic system was introduced into the New World, it became much more efficient to just use that instead. Though wild magic was said to be able to create effects that even tier magic could not hope to replicate. Of course, assuming that enough souls were sacrificed in the process. However, during this time, 6th tier magic was assumed to be impossible. So perhaps New World researchers didn't have a proper grasp on the full potential of tier magic. What we do know for sure is
I love that scene, by the way, when he took his ring off and it showed how strong he actually was and she started throwing up.
Yeah,
I
forgot about that.
Tier magic, primarily due
Let
to
me
the
show you
efficiency
something.
reasons we mentioned earlier. Though few from the New World realize it, the 8 Greed Kings were once players from Yggdrasil who were teleported to the New World in centuries past, much like Ainz himself. As a
Much
matter of
like
fact,
Ainz
it's
himself.
believed by many readers that players used one of the more powerful world items from Yggdrasil to allow inhabitants of the New World to use tier magic, since historically, the magic system had spontaneously appeared out of nowhere and wasn't native to the New World. But other than not being color sorted into karma groups and these slightly different magic systems, dragons in the New World are pretty similar to dragons in Dungeons & Dragons. Most
that's cool.
importantly, with regards to the aspect in which they can polymorph themselves into any other race, and
Yeah,
through
that's
this
pretty wild.
breed with members of various species, leaving behind whatever elf, dwarf, or any race babies with dragon blood in their veins. So, what does all this have to do with Sebas? Well, either a lot or very little. Sebas is definitely a dragonoid of some variety, at least according to Shaltir, where she calls him Ryujin, roughly translating to Dragon Man or
I was
Dragon
about to say, I've
person.
heard that name
So
before.
Oh,
he's
dang.
either a true dragon, a lesser subspecies of dragon, or a humanoid creature with dragon blood within him. And dragons did exist in Yggdrasil, so this isn't just some wild speculation. Dragons were actually some of the strongest enemies that one could encounter,
Dang.
and they were routinely used as world-class entities, basically end-game raid bosses, so powerful that they would require entire armies of max-level players and
Dude, that's
NPCs
awesome.
just to take them down. The big question now then is, how much dragon blood does Sebas have within him?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, that's Yggdrasil dragon blood, not New World dragon
Oh
blood.
yeah, because
Remember,
it's
they could very well not be the same thing. We know they have lots of similarities, but what we don't know definitely overshadows what we do know. So let's just encompass all of our potential possibilities regarding Sebas's relation to dragons. As we just mentioned, he could be a full-blown dragon just polymorphing into a humanoid creature with dragon blood in his lineage, thus granting him dragon-like powers.
I feel like
or
it's that
even
one.
some kind
Yeah.
of lesser dragon species. Hell, he could even be a Dungeons & Dragons dragonborn for all we know.
Yeah.
But as usual, we'll use a combination of logic and speculation in an attempt to figure out the truth.
Per the use.
The name dragonoid carries the oid suffix to mean like or resembling, but typically implies an incomplete or imperfect resemblance. Using this as our basis, the suffix therefore implies that Sebas is a lesser dragon, or
Does it
dragon-like
say that
creature.
in there?
And while that strongly implies a dragon subspecies, it could also mean a fairly young, true dragon as well.
That'd be
Still,
badass.
I think it's safer to assume that he's a lesser species of dragon, and not just a
Dude,
true dragon
nice.
polymorphed into a
Throwing
human.
throwing
let's
magic
proceed with
on
that.
us, huh?
As for being a mixed race with dragon blood flowing through them, well, that's certainly a possibility, considering that all Nazarick denizens were heteromorphic creatures, monsters with a vaguely humanoid feature set, if at all.
yeah.
A
So it's
strong
like they
indication
have
of
the
what
blood,
kind of
kinda.
race
Yeah.
you are is usually how many levels that you put into it. As you may recall, heteromorphs have full access to a racial class tree that normal human and demi-human characters do not. If we look at Sebas's character,
Ah, that's what I've been
we
waiting
see
on
his
this whole
entire
time, dude.
racial build is unknown, leaving
Oh,
25
damn,
levels up
really?
for speculation. But trust me when I say it's dragonoid. 25 levels smells suspiciously like either a heavy investment in a demi-human dragon blood racial class or a moderate investment into some kind of heteromorphic dragon subspecies. But what kind of abilities
When I
does
say
this
trust
dragonoid
me,
race have?
it's that. I
Well,
wonder why.
we know of exactly one for sure. Sebas is one of a select few Nazarick NPCs who have the ability to transform into a final form.
Oh.
We have absolutely no idea what this form looks like.
I was about to
or
say,
what
we've
powers
seen it?
gives
I don't
him,
think so.
though it's presumed to be dragon related.
Damn.
That's wild, then.
Okay.
Or just one of the aborted dragon fetuses from Dark Souls.
Oh
But
god.
that's pretty much the only racial ability
Turns
that
it-
we
oh
can
my God.
confirm for him. I'm sure he has others, like some special attacks when in his final form, or even the stuff I discussed earlier could bear some relevance.
I mean, yeah, we
as
never
in
have seen
access
it,
to
right?
Wild magic, or some innate spellcasting and polymorphic abilities. A breath attack and inability to die from old age could very well be plausible too. Who knows? I certainly don't. But I'm sure you have a few ideas of your own too, so feel free to let me know.
I mean, he
Anyway,
is legit a
what we do
badass,
know
but I'm
more
very
of
curious
is his
about this.
classes and class-based abilities. Looking back on his character sheet, Sebas's character
Monk,
archetype
martial
is
king?
that of a monk, historically known as someone that practices monastic living at a monastery.
Okay.
Specifically, someone who structures their entire life around rejecting material pleasure in favor of abstinence and minimalism, in order to pursue religious obligations and seek enlightenment. Monks exist within the faith traditions of various cultures: Buddhism, Jainism,
Yeah, I was about to
even
say, like,
sects of
some sort of,
Christianity.
like,
Chinese
Yeah.
holy
Buddhist
magic
monks
as
have been
well.
Shaolin temple
stereotypically
type
linked to the
monks.
practice
Or,
of
like,
Chinese
healing.
martial arts, like Kung Fu, as some groups saw martial arts and self-mastery as a potential method of achieving enlightenment. It
Shit.
wasn't something that was particularly prevalent throughout history, or the entire world. But the idea of a bunch of priests who sat around praying all day, but could also punch your lights out, was apparently such
could
a
also
cool concept
punch out
that
your
it
lights.
became a popular trope in fiction.
There's the monk
Video
from
games ran with the
Diablo
idea,
3.
Oh,
and
yeah.
now the term monk is popular shorthand for a martial artist that incorporates Eastern spiritualism.
That's always kind of how I
concepts
see
into
the
their
monk
martial arts.
class is the Diablo
As
3
a
version.
martial
It's
artist,
pretty
Sebas is adept at fighting with
accurate,
his
I think.
fist.
Yeah.
Or really any other limb for that matter. He doesn't need a
Damn.
blade to put a hole through your stomach. No, he can do that with the power of his fists alone. Now, aside from the 10
Dang.
levels explicitly in Monk, he also has 10 levels in Martial Lord and a further 5 levels in Striker. A build that very clearly has a high focus in hand-to-hand combat.
Which is
Yes.
very
While
monk.
a strike can technically be done with any object.
Damn,
like a
though, that
sword
was
strike,
so
for
awesome.
instance,
It really
in the
was.
context of martial arts, certain attacks like punches and kicks are typically called strikes, in contrast to other moves like grabs, flips, or holds. The striker class thus may give Sebas access to different kinds of powerful strike
Oh,
moves,
she's a striker
or
monk
just
too?
improve
That's
the
cool.
damage of his strikes. Martial Lord, on the other hand, is a bit trickier. But in JRPGs,
That's what I
the
was
word
curious.
Lord is often used to signify an improved version of an existing thing. So perhaps it's a higher tier version of the monk or martial artist classes.
I can see
Aside
that.
from regular old punches and kicks, monks themselves
Kadoosh.
most likely have access to a selection of decidedly more supernatural abilities that are powered by the manipulation of ki energy, a concept from Eastern spiritualism. Perhaps you're familiar with the terms life force, chakra, spirit energy, or
Yeah,
net.
freaking spirit.
It's related
Mm-hmm.
to that sort of thing. It's the life force that exists both in oneself as well as the surrounding environment. Different
Dude,
from
I
mana,
love Hunter
the way
x
that
Hunter.
mana
It's
is
such a good show.
associated with the manipulation of physics and reality to create supernatural events. Ki is associated with vitality, health, and spirituality. Its manipulation grants control and mastery over one's soul, and by extension, their body. Basically, if mana is mind over matter, then Ki is spirit over body.
Do you ever have like a so if you ever hear life force, what do you think? Like where does your brain go to?
Life force? Kind of like your soul,
Is that like
in a way.
yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Instantly mine goes to like Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you say life force, I'm like,
Life
oh
force.
yep. And just straight into it. Final Fantasy 7.
This leads
I
to
don't know
a
why.
selection of spells or abilities that are radically different from a typical spellcaster. Ones that emphasize buffs and power-ups rather than overt flashiness and firepower.
That makes
With
sense.
that said, he actually has 2 classes related to ki manipulation.
Your ki,
One
outer
that's
ki
translated
master.
as
Oh,
either
damn.
spiritual or inner ki master,
Ah.
and one translated as either physical or outer ki
Dude,
master.
That's really cool.
Rad.
A common trope in Eastern spiritualism is that mastery over one's inner self, one's inner ki or chakra, allows
Yes.
one to seemingly defy
You don't
the
get
laws
that
of the
ripped
physical world.
without mastering your inner self.
You may see real-life ki masters walking on a bed of hot coal or surviving without food for months. But
Hell
the
no.
term ki
Surviving out
and its
food for
use of
hours
self-mastery
is
and
more like it.
discipline
I'd be
Yeah,
like,
also
take me
may
off
create
the
hell.
list of being the
appearances in
master of
martial
that.
arts
Yeah,
because it
dude.
ain't happening.
allowing users to smash through bricks and the like. Fiction tends to take this one step further, where a master of ki might be able to explode someone's face by striking their pressure points at
Fist of the
specific
North
angles
Star.
with specific force, or shoot an energy
Damn.
blast from their hands, or even fly through the air. Basically,
Seen it.
as an outer
It'll
ki
happen.
master of 5
It's real.
levels and an inner ki master of 15, Sebas is adept at both manipulating his own ki as well as affecting the ki of others and
That's
in
really
the
cool,
natural
though.
environment. This could mean that his abilities are focused on self-buffs, while also having a specialized few that allow him to influence and control others and the environment. If I had to make an educated guess, I'd say inner ki was useful in
about
direct
to punch
combat,
your
while
face
outer
off,
ki was
dude.
used more for
He
utility.
always had really cool
As for
stances
his
too,
Yeah.
like his
actual
fighting
known
stance.
Yeah.
abilities, he can harden his skin to make himself more durable using
Damn.
iron skin. He
Oh.
can channel his ki into allies, allowing for the healing of basic wounds.
Healing. I was
Healing
thinking
of
that.
more complex ailments like poisons or curses require a specific type of divine magic that Sebas
Such a
doesn't have
wild
access to.
picture right there.
He also bears a technique called Palm of the Puppeteer. It lets him control someone's mind by channeling his ki into their head, though this can be
Whoa.
Oh,
negated with
damn.
a sufficiently high resistance. Another ability is the one that he used on Climb to grant him the strength to overcome his body's normal limits while staring him down with lethal intent.
Yeah, I remember
Lethal
that.
intent being a gaze so murderous and intimidating that it sends shivers down your spine even if you can't actually see them. Sebas has so much control over his own body that he has precise command over his own lethal intent, resulting in an attack called Intimidation.
Can you imagine
As we
people
saw
like
in
in the real
season-
world being like trying to execute some murderous intent and it does something, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just assuming like some like Florida man meth addict just doing the and that's like that would probably freak me out enough where I'd be like, I don't know what this dude's on, but I don't want to get my face eaten off.
Oh
you know?
yeah, like I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
He basically showers Climb in a lethal intent so strong that it gives Climb conscious control over his own reactions, teaching him in the process how to overcome another person's powerful killing intent through self-activation of his own adrenaline response in the form of a martial art.
That's
mean,
pretty
What
wild.
happened here
Yeah.
was essentially Sebas used an ability designed to debuff an enemy with fear and repurposed it to grant him another effect, which is actually quite
Dang.
interesting, considering how much of the mechanics of Yggdrasil changed in the New World. From this,
Huh.
we can speculate that while Sebas may have only had access to whatever abilities that were part of his classes back in Yggdrasil, as a master of martial arts and manipulator of key energy in the New World, he may be able to accomplish things that he could not necessarily do in Yggdrasil.
That's
which
really
makes you
cool.
wonder
Yeah.
what else is possible in the New World. But back to Ki. Mechanically, it's not spelled out exactly how the manipulation of Ki is different from the expenditure of MP. Sebas's MP and magic attack stats are extremely low,
Oh,
suggesting
damn.
that he has basically no
Super
spellcasting
freaking low.
ability.
He's like
But
MP
does
who
Ki
needs it.
just function
Right?
as a similar resource, going down whenever he casts monk spells and regenerating slowly over time as one rests? Or is it a fixed value, like attack power, that determines the strength of his monk attacks? If I had to guess, it's a resource like mana, but one that can be regained much more quickly. Like in League of Legends, how Lee Sin has an energy bar instead of a mana bar.
Nice.
High-level monk abilities don't appear to be particularly powerful in the grand scheme of things, even in comparison to abilities from other warrior classes, let alone arcane spellcasters that stack all their stats into instant death. A good
I like it.
example would be Palm of the Puppeteer. It's a single target mind control ability that requires the user to physically touch the target. But a spellcaster can mind control entire groups of people
Jesus.
from a distance with just the
Yeah.
wave of their hand,
Just being
just
like,
much
"Hey."
less frequently.
Yeah.
So it's most likely that
Gosh.
Ki can be recovered quickly by stopping and charging up, allowing for more frequent use of lesser
That is a
powerful
wild
abilities.
scene. That whole
In contrast
freaking
to MP, which regenerates extremely
thing with
slowly,
him and Climb
but
was
can
amazing.
be used for
Yeah.
extremely powerful and impactful abilities. Under this model, a Ki user has no limit on how often that they can use their abilities, outside of drawing on their pool of Ki, only limited by how much Ki they have and how fast it can recharge. On a side note, there is a variation on the base monk class called Shaman, which we saw in
Shaman?
the 6
Ah,
on
yeah,
Figure
yeah.
0. Just like Sebas, he had levels in Monk, but rather than being focused on the sub-variants of Ki mastery, he chose to specialize in shamanism.
Huh.
A practitioner of such has a
Beast
body covered in
skills.
the tattoos of animals, which can then be used to channel power from and imbue himself with features of the associated animal
That guy
for
didn't
a
last
limited
very
period
long
in
like I thought he
time.
was going to.
Knowing this, though I kind of implied that Ki energy is a feature shared by all monks, that isn't entirely true, as we've just seen with the case of monks channeling animal spirits instead of a Ki pool. Sure, they could be related, but it's hard to know for sure. Yggdrasil had hundreds of different classes, and they integrated all kinds of different video game
These are D&D
archetypal
class?
classes and
Ah, I
races
get you.
under one
Dang,
big
that's a
unified
shitload of
class
classes.
system, much
Good
like
God.
Dungeons and
My
Dragons
God.
does.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is
Didn't
that
even get to the
there
bottom.
could be different types of monks that don't necessarily draw from Ki or animal spirits, like Sebas and Zero do. There are many paths for a player to choose from and specialize into, all of which embody a specific type of monk. What probably unifies all monks together as a singular monk class is an emphasis of martial arts mixed with some brand of spiritualism. Now, after monk, Sebas has 30 more unknown class levels.
That's
most
what I'm
likely
curious about.
associated with monk or monk-like classes, which we won't try to speculate this time around. So now that we've covered his build, well, how strong is he? For starters,
That is the question.
Sebas is one of Nazaric's 4 best close combat specialists, alongside
Okay.
Rubedo, Albedo, and Cocytus. This means he specializes in attacks delivered from extremely close range against opponents who are actually in combat with him.
Catching him between his fingers is freaking
have
cool.
To ambush opponents in order to maximize damage. As a CQC specialist, he is virtually guaranteed victory against anything other than a fellow CQC expert, given that he can close the distance and engage the foe at close range. When against a foe engaging him from outside of his effective range, he can try and weather the attacks with his respectable defense and high health pool, all while attempting to get closer. Sebas, I imagine, is much better at this than Albedo or Cocytus, as he is no less of a warrior, but has plenty of self-healing to keep his health up as he chases down a kiting enemy. As I've mentioned before, there's a rock-paper-scissors relationship to be observed with the other close combat specialists of Nazarick. Albedo beats Sebas, Sebas beats Cocytus, and Cocytus beats Albedo. So Sebas beats Cocytus but loses to Albedo. Why? Well, Cocytus is highly focused on DPS with a glass cannon-like build, and Albedo is full tank. I suspect that Sebas as a monk has fairly well-balanced defense and offense. We know his punches are quite powerful, at least powerful enough to put him among the top 3 warrior classes in Nazarick. We also know that his defense
Probably has some
is pretty
quickness
good.
too.
Yeah, I would.
Not
Oh
like
yeah,
as
dude, you can
offensive.
see it. He definitely
He can
does.
also probably boost both offensive and defensive stats temporarily with his ki. Combine all this with his mix of abilities to self-heal, debuff enemies, mind control low-level minions and whatnot, and you'll see he's got a very versatile kit that keeps him well-rounded, flexible, and balanced.
That makes
Unlike
sense.
the other two that are heavily specialized in either damage or defense. It's from this that you can piece together the dynamic. Cocytus has so much power he can overcome Albedo's defenses, dealing damage at a quick enough pace to down her before she can down him.
Yeah.
Albedo is so tanky that Sebas can't really damage her enough before he runs out of ki and has to recharge, whereas she can just slowly whittle him down with a flurry of constant attacks. And finally, Sebas has a good enough mix of offense, defense, self-healing, and special abilities to endure Cocytus's high damage output long enough to exploit
That was
his
such a cool
defense.
moment, though.
Yeah, it
But
was.
there's still one really important thing that's not being taken into consideration here, and this completely changes the entire dynamic. Sebas's transformation ability. Like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
very little is known about its specific function,
It's wild.
except for one thing. It's apparently enough of a trump card that it grants him enough power to defeat both Cocytus and Albedo.
Whoa.
Damn.
This has got to be some crazy dragon-type transformation. That being said,
Ah,
it's likely
what-
limited in overall
Good God, his
usability,
eyes.
such that he can only use it a limited number of times per day, possibly even just once. If so, an opponent who is aware of it can attempt to bait it out by retreating, then re-engaging Sebas when he no longer has access to his trump card. Or
I wonder
maybe
if
it only
he,
activates
like,
when he's on low health.
When does
The
he ever talk
activation
about it?
requirements
Like
could
the
be anything.
that
Though Yggdrasil
transformation.
typically used the X uses per day model for
Right, 'cause
anything
we
that
literally
wasn't a
had
spell,
no
and
idea.
in turn
Yeah.
didn't require the expenditure of mana. Incidentally, Sebas still doesn't become the strongest being in Nazarick when he's transformed. That spot is still held by Rubedo, being very capable of defeating Sebas even in his final form.
Damn, dude.
Wow.
Rubedo can likely beat Touch Me, the indisputably strongest member of Ainz Ul-Gon, who
Good God.
routinely beat Momonga, who had the skills and tactics to eke out a win on Sheltier, who is the most powerful floor guardian thanks to her min-maxed build and
Good
also
lord.
capable of beating Cocytus, Albedo, and Sebas. Looking at it this way, then yeah, Sebas is unfortunately pretty far down on that power scale.
Right?
Still, he's a level 100 character like everyone else, and thus can probably face roll pretty much everything in the New World. I doubt that
Everything,
even
I
a
would think.
Dragon Lord can hold a candle to him. But
Damn.
yeah, that's Sebas.
My
A
question
Dragonoid
is like,
butler that excels in close quarters combat. I'm sure there's still plenty more things to learn about him, and I'm sure
Right?
you all have some opinions of your own. So go ahead and let us know what you think about Sebas in the comments.
dude,
Anyway.
I freaking Sebas is such a cool character, but I'm curious why we find like there's so many characters in this show that have like these really wild things like his, for instance, the 30 was it 30 or 35 levels and an unknown thing. We don't know. And then the only way that we actually have that, I love the fact that he found that, like she called him Ryujin, and like that's how he knows that he's any type of a dragon type thing. And but it's like that's such a I wonder why they don't really look into that further. You know what I mean?
To annoy us.
Yeah, probably. And then, like, where did we find out about this trump card that he's got where he can transform into something?
Yeah, that was
never talked about it
straight
in
up
the
new.
anime. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I have no clue, man. I have no clue.
I mean, it's pretty cool though.
yeah, it's
I'd
epic.
like to see it.
Right? But he can do enough damage, I think, without it. That
Yeah,
it's like
he doesn't
he's never
need
really
it
had
in the
to.
new world.
Mhm.
Like,
Damn, dude. But either way, homies, thank y'all very much for checking this one out. I hope y'all having a blessed day. And if y'all need anything at all, message us.
Yeah.
Also, a little thing, we are going to be checking out the next Overlord movie as well, too, very soon. So
yeah.
check that out if you guys want to. There's a link to our Patreon in the description below. And we'll holler at you later. Freaking toodles.
later.
Bye.